if you're going into Christmas saying, hey, how do I model the heart of Christ into whatever situation or family dynamic I'm going into, gosh, I kind of say this tongue in cheek, but I don't want to make light of it. But like, you're probably not going to literally be crucified and die. So like, man,
I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be all right. And if you get to model that for other people and make someone else's day a bit more joyful, then man, that's a win.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Hope in Real Life podcast with Jason Gore. Our team is passionate and committed to bringing you more hope in the everyday, real areas of your life. If this conversation and content is valuable for you, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, and even share. You never know how valuable it could be to share a little bit of hope with someone else. Let's get the conversation started.
What's going on, Hope in Real Life family? Here we are. We are getting close to the holidays, and we are going to be taking on a topic that we are calling Real Talk for the Holidays, keeping the faith during what we all know is the craziest time of the year. I'm here with a good buddy, Bradford Mitchell. We're doing things a little bit different.
Yeah.
Happy to have you here. Bradford, why don't you
Thanks.
tell the good people just a little bit about yourself, just in case they don't know you?
Yeah.
By the way, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, almost.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
And who knows? People
Merry
could hear this.
Chrysler.
There we go. There it is.
I love the holidays. I'm the helpless romantic. We'll get into that. My wife is like, okay. I have a YouTube channel.
I can't wait to hear how the holidays have to do with being a helpless romantic. But
we'll get there.
Okay, all right.
I have a YouTube channel, and I teach guitarists, mainly church guitarists, how to play, and I get to do some cool stuff with guitar gear and all that. And I am a part of our church. Jason's our pastor, and I play there, and so I got to know Jason that way. And then you guys had me on to talk earlier in 2024?
We're in 2024 now, yeah.
It doesn't feel like it was like only like several months ago, but it was. And I just came on to be a part of the team. Jason had asked me if I would be interested in doing it, and so that's the short version.
Yeah.
But we're doing things a little different just to try to just try something different.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily an episode of, and we're going to lean into this a little bit over the coming months. Not necessarily an attempt to have a subject matter expert or anything like
not.
that. But
I'm
man,
not one.
here's a couple guys that have some commonality. Both have beards at the moment.
That's about it. Yeah.
Likes music.
Yep.
I like sports. You don't.
I work out though, but you do too. So
There's some
that.
stuff. So, all right. Well, that's enough about us.
Yeah.
Welcome to our date here that everybody's been invited to. Hey, all right. We're talking about the holidays. Why don't we jump in here? Like, we've all got stuff in our lives that we remember from the holidays for some reason. What's one tradition that just stands out to you in your mind, Bradford, that you can't shake, maybe for better or for worse?
Yeah. I know, when it comes to Christmas, I was always stoked to be able to open a present on Christmas Eve, and
I remember that
was like my thing. And my parents and my mom, I always remember my mom always trying to guard me from choosing certain presents. She's like, no, you need to open. I'm like it was like socks or it was like pajamas. I was like, what's the point? Like,
I want the He-Man action figure,
or I want the video game. But my mom's like, no.
Did they have He-Man when you were little?
I knew who he was.
Okay.
I don't think it was as big
I'm a
of a
little
deal.
older than you
It was a little
are.
different. It was Ninja Turtles for me.
Okay.
So Power Rangers. Yeah. But and the other thing, like the foods we would have, like my mom makes these marinated olives, which I don't know if it sounds weird to hear this from somebody else, but it's like oil and vinegar and garlic cloves, and you marinate the olives for a week before, and they're just really, they got a little bit of bite. They're not pickled, but they got a little bit of bite, and they got the garlic in it, and it's not Thanksgiving.
Bradford is also a foodie. That's all, just so you know.
Yeah, I am. I say I'm a simple man. I'm not. Steak sounds simple, but it's not.
No, they do it right, man. It's an art. Yeah, I mean, I can remember, and I hate that because I got a lot of great memories. And there's I find myself, whether I'm posturing myself or just simply happen to be maybe a little bit more on the guy side of things in life. But there's also this kid in me that has never left, and that I regret the fact that part of it maybe has, and the innocence that we have as kids, and in the memories that we have, like you said, waiting for the presents and the lights and the season and something special, something's different. But I have this memory. I don't know how old I was. Maybe first grade, and my parents were divorced, and I was going to this was the year for me to spend Christmas Eve at my dad's house. And he was married at the time. So it was my dad, my stepmom, and then her kids were there. And so my stepbrother and stepsister. And somehow in my mind, like my dad took me to sit on Santa's lap, I think, or maybe my mom did. I don't remember. But I remember this was the year I was going to get a go-kart. And I'd gone big in my ask. And that was it, man. I was going to get a go-kart. And on Christmas morning, I woke up and there wasn't a go-kart, but there was a bicycle. And I'd never had a bicycle. And I remember like being so bummed that I didn't get a go-kart.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how I expressed that as a first grader. Maybe it wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
But I remember my dad taking me outside and saying, hey, listen, your stepmom and I spent money on a bike for you to have for Christmas. And when we go back inside, you're going to be excited that there's a bike in there. And then you're going to ride it later. And so for some reason, I don't know why. Now, look, my dad taught me how to ride a bike, and here's how he taught me how to ride a bike. I went down the street twice with training wheels, and he had his wrenches out, and the training wheels came off. And then I learned how to ride a bike very quickly. Right. So very thankful, but for some reason, man, I just can't shake it. Can't shake that one.
Okay, so that brings up something that I think maybe we could talk about. Like, there's maybe somebody who either they are divorced or maybe they're, I don't know. I mean, if it's something who, I don't know if we're going to have like kids listening to this, but like, do you have any thoughts about how to navigate the holidays in that way? It could be tough. I mean, it could be tough navigating with your family, even if like your parents aren't, like it could be tough.
Yeah.
But do you have any like what like do you think would be helpful for people trying to figure out how to do this? Maybe this is their first year being divorced and this is something they need help and hope for. Yeah.
So I think, let me answer it a little more broadly.
Sure.
And then we can maybe jump back into that if we remember. But I will say this. So I've been married 21 years.
Okay.
And if it's 22, sorry, babe, 21 years. And, man, I will say one of the hardest things at the holidays is figuring out where are you going to be on Christmas Eve? Where are you going to be on Christmas morning? Especially if you got little kids, the grandparents want to see it. And I get it, man. Like,
I'm figuring that out now.
It is a magical thing.
Yeah.
So I would think, what I would say is the best thing to do is to get a plan early. Like when you start waiting until the holidays to make your plans and then the expectations mount and now you're in the holiday season and everybody's busy. And so I would say as best as you can, decide where you're going to be, lay it out, make sure everybody understands, hey, we're going to go here. And then there's something to the fact, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a number of times as we try to talk about how to kind of numb down the crazy. But just, you got to remember, you can't make everybody happy.
No.
You can't. And so if you are married, man, you and your wife got to be on the same page. And you guys got to do what's best, or
That's
you and your
most
husband.
important.
Yeah. And so now here comes the hard part. How do you do that if you're not? and then I think it's a conversation, and there's going to be give and take, man. There's going to be some sacrifice. How do we find the common ground?
Yeah.
So I would say that if parents are divorced, my parents
Another
were.
layer.
Right. And what worked well for us growing up is it was just an every other year thing as to where I was on Christmas Eve. And so one year I would be with my dad on Christmas Eve and wake up there on Christmas morning and see what Santa Claus left under the tree, see which go-kart didn't get left or did, and then I would but shortly after that, around lunchtime, I'd be heading over to Mom's and we'd be doing everything with Mom's side. And then the next year it would be at Mom's on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, and then heading over to be with Dad for a bit after that.
Yeah. You said that brought up a good point, because my wife and I, our families are like close enough that we can drive, but like not close to each other. My in-laws are west in Charlotte. My family is east in Virginia. They're in like Virginia Beach area. Okay. And we do that, but we actually you said like make a plan. We just actually have like a rotation. It's like we spend Thanksgiving with one family one year, and then we spend Thanksgiving with the other family the next year. And especially now we have kids, like we're not going to do the traveling for Christmas thing. And like, we'll figure that part out.
Yeah.
But we do that. And so everybody knows. So my mom still asks, which I wonder if it's her being hopeful that like, maybe she asked this year. I'm like, Mom, you know, we were with you last year. I think she's just hoping that something would change and we're going to go. Cause my daughter's 8 weeks old. So I think my mom's like, come stay with us, but she doesn't want to say it. So.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think though, why do you think at the holidays this pressure comes out? Like, why is there tension that seemingly surrounds all? I mean, everybody talks about we all got some crazy family.
Yeah.
But and maybe that leads to the tension. But why do you think at the holidays, like everything gets a bit more chaotic?
I think it's Hallmark's fault, man. I think, but I'm joking, but I'm actually kind of serious. I think people see like movies and they see this like idea of families gathering together and like everybody's peaceful. And then like, you know, if you're like me, I'm like, no, I'm going to watch Christmas Vacation. Like that's more real.
Right, yeah.
That's more real.
Home Alone.
Yes.
Maybe. Or Die Hard, which is a Christmas movie, by the way. Maybe we talk about that.
But I think it's like Hollywood gives us this idea. I think Hollywood often gives us ideas that kind of like misconstrue, that we kind of like get these wrong ideas about. And I think a lot of people try to fit in a lot of quality family time in a short period of time. And they're like, this didn't go right, and they explode because there's just pressure to make like the 8 hours you're together right.
Yeah.
And
when the last 8 years
have not been.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's like, because like I've told my parents, I was like, I love to see you guys around the holidays, but like my dad makes a joke about like his birthday is not just a day, it's like a birthday week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't we apply that to holidays? Like we don't need it to be one day. Like come a few days later and like there's less pressure then because it's not actually a holiday. But I think a lot of times people, they try to make this magical moment and they don't know they're doing it. Because I think I find myself, because I mentioned I'm the hopeless romantic, and we can still, it's funny.
Do you want to go there? You mentioned it twice. We can go there right now.
I think that's the thing, though. I think people set unrealistic expectations, and it's like, if you're spending time with your family, I understand there's like, you know, we're on the East Coast. If you have family live on the West Coast, like seeing them regularly is not easy. I get that. But I think that may be something that like in people's head, that's what it is that makes people think that like there's all this pressures because they're like, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, just hang out. Like it doesn't have to be like, that can be your tradition. Just hanging out can be your tradition. I don't know.
Hope in Real Life family, I want to take a moment and let you know about a resource that we have for you for your own personal development, spiritual enrichment, and really a way for you to find a bit more hope in real life. We have a tool for you called the Hope in Real Life app. It offers things like parenting tips, financial resources, marriage insights. If you're looking for it, there's even Bible reading plans in there. And there's a community where you can even share prayer requests and know that someone is praying for you for whatever it is that you have going on in your life. It's available right now in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. You can search Hope in Real Life in both stores, or you can use the download link that is in the show notes. Remember, tomorrow can be better than today, and hope is possible even in real life.
To me, it just seems nuts that, so I'm 45 and I feel like it's been like for 20 years in a row, maybe it's less than that. I have kids that are 16, maybe it's 16 years in a row. Just kidding. I know y'all listen. That I've thought this is going to be the year that I'm not going to miss it. Like this is the year that I'm going to slow down and I'm going to enjoy it. And then I turn around and I feel like it's spring. And somehow I was like, when am I going to enjoy the Christmas season? When am I going to?
Well,
like,
you are in ministry.
Yeah. I mean, that could have a little bit to do with it. But like, how do you think, Bradford, we go through what this season that's coming up, it's right in front of us, and not miss out on what it really does have to offer?
Yeah. I think one thing I've thought about, I've been challenging myself to do, is to not think of myself. Because I feel like I want to experience it. Like you were talking about where's the magic? It's like I'm an adult and it's like the magic is gone. Like the presents thing, presents are still great and you're still grateful, but it's just like, man, I'm not like jumping. Like I used to want to get up at 5 a.m. to open presents on Christmas.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, can I sleep first? The presents will be there. Like I'm more realist now. Right. But like I found that serving other people is a good way, even as small as, because this is a thing around the holidays, just letting somebody else have the parking spot. Yeah. Like start there.
Yeah.
Start there. Serving can be really small. You don't have to interact with the person. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to because small talk to me, I feel like it's kind of fake and like it's kind of the point. But like I don't want to be like, oh no, man, it's all good. Like it's not all good. But like I didn't have to interact with that person and let them have the parking spot, or to like let somebody in on the highway, even though it means like I can't I'm gonna get a half a second closer to my destination by letting them in, whatever. So I think just serving and thinking about other ways to serve people is like, I think it's cliche, but sometimes cliches are cliches because they're real. It's true.
Well, if you think about it, man, like what Christmas, if we're talking specifically about Christmas, what it's really about is God sending his son down to earth, right? And Jesus willingly, the Son of God, taking on human flesh and being born as a baby, ultimately is an act of service to all of humanity.
Yeah.
And so if we can get out of you said Hallmark ruined it. I mean, Hallmark really made it about, hey, it's about the gifts and it's about the cards and it's about
butterflies
the parties.
in your stomach.
All this stuff. As opposed to like, no. What's the best way to remember God stepping down into the course of human history so that we could all experience a different life? It's like, okay, well, what if we make it about that? Then how can we model that in our lives?
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what we need to be remembering. I think if we want to find peace, I'm not saying I get this right all the time, but when you say give somebody a parking spot, I mean, that's really what you're saying. Yeah. How do I willingly set aside my personal preferences to allow this to be a season of peace that actually models what the whole season is all about?
Yeah.
So you mentioned a parking spot. Any other bright ideas for people that might need to find a way to slow down and remember what it's really about?
I know for me, like my wife and I try to be intentional about like.
You try to be helpless romantics together?
Yes. No, not her. That's why it's even funny. It's like my wife is like, I don't care. But my wife is intentional about traditions. And not traditions that were so rigid that like if we miss them, Christmas is ruined. It's like, let's try to get to one or two things that are fun, that are Christmas-ish. Like we used to go to like Spencer, North Carolina. They got like it's transportation museum or something, and they got like this Polar Express thing.
Yeah, okay, I've been to that.
And my kid, like he used to love Polar Express. He's 4.5 this year, so whether or not he's going to love it, he's going to
love it. My son Aiden, who's now 16, loved it until he was like 14 years old.
Oh,
and I
think he still does.
I think he still does.
We're not doing it this year. Yeah. We already made that call not to do it, and I was like, okay. Like,
well, I was just talking about the movie. We didn't go on the train.
Movie,
we didn't go on the train every year.
The movie, I can't. You got to watch the movie. I can't not watch the movie. Yeah, I don't know. To not miss it. I think that's just really it to me. And like not thinking of yourself, and just thinking about how you can bring something. That's the golden rule. So again, like it can sound cliche, but I like treating other people the way you want to be treated. That'll change some things for you.
Yeah.
And like just going out with gifts or just being intentional and not even having to, and I think we want to talk about this in another episode, depending on how things lay out, but like gifts don't have to be, you don't have to spend $100, $500 on somebody for it to be a good gift either. Like intentionality is more about, to me. Yeah.
So getting together with family, something that we do at the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas.
You want to talk about a service?
What is, that can bring tension. You got any tension in your family you want to talk about?
No.
No? Okay.
Nothing worth mentioning.
Okay. All right.
Nothing worth mentioning. But, I mean, it was an election year. Yeah, so this may be weird for some people this year.
Yeah, that's true, man. You're going to get people together. Yeah. Crazy Uncle Johnny's going to show up.
Yes.
And he's going to talk about how the recent election was the best thing ever or the worst thing ever.
Or the worst thing ever. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of both happening.
You got to decide. Are you going to talk about it? Or are you not going to talk about it?
I'm already cringing thinking about that person who feels that I feel bad for that. It's because it's hard.
Yeah, for me, it probably just depends on the day. Most of the time I'm in a good place. So like, that's probably not something we should talk about right now. Or just sit there and listen. And then every now and then I have a couple family members that it is hard, sorry, Amy, to not, just stoke it just a little bit. And I don't know that my sister-in-law listens, but if she does, can't wait to see you at Christmas and I can talk about some stuff. So family expectations, though, people are going to have them. You said you've got, because you just said you have an 8-month-old, but
8-week-old,
right? 8-week-old,
yes.
but also a 4.5-year-old.
Yes, sir.
And so, I'm sure that brings with it tension, like you said, with family. Any recommendations on how you guys have navigated some of that?
I think we kind of talked about it in a way, and it kind of goes back. It's like ultimately it comes down to what my wife and I think is best for us. And like an 8-week-old is, she doesn't have like an immune system yet. Like, right. Or it's like, it's weak, something. I don't know. She's an infant. She's more susceptible to getting sick.
Yep.
And we're not using it as an excuse, but like, it's a reason. It's like, we're going to kind of keep it a little low, lay a little low right now. But also it's like, we don't want to deal with toys, gifts, hauling that. Like, we don't want to, so it's just like, but this is the best move for our family. Like, we're here. We'd love to have you. You know, my in-laws have, it's just that my mother-in-law, my father-in-law there, my family, my sister, one of my sisters has special needs. So she's always with my mom. And my youngest sister, or with both my parents, my youngest sister is 13 years younger, and she actually just graduated from college. So like she just now got into like her own life. So things are going to be a little different this year anyways. So I think it's just like navigating with grace and patience and like, hey mom, like we want to spend time with you, but just know like, I think we got to really figure this out together. Like it's going to be different this year for a lot of reasons. And it's being upfront, like you said, get a plan together early.
Yep.
I would add to that. I would agree and add like, just be like honest and communicate with people. Cause I think it can cause like tension. Like, well, you spend too much time with that family instead of our family, or it could be that way for somebody. It's like, just be honest and be like, hey, we're trying to figure this out. Like, can we be graceful with one another? And like, if we can get a tradition, the plus would be mom and dad, come on now, if they can move down here, which is like what I've been trying to get them to do. So they'll be here in like a year or so, but that would make things a lot easier.
Yeah. I think too, man, like and again, I told you, I don't get this right all the time, but, and I am a rather opinionated human.
I would say I am too.
Yeah. And so
good company.
I have to tell myself, and before getting together, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, going to the in-laws, like, hey, this isn't about you. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you can do one of two things. You can go in with expectations that it's going to be your way, and within the 99th percentile, be frustrated the whole time because it's probably not going to be. Mm-hmm. Or you can go in this thinking, especially into the holidays. Look, Thanksgiving, it's about what? Like recognizing what we're thankful for in life and wanting to experience, like, you know, science even tells us that when our hearts are in a place of gratitude, like everything in life is just better. Yeah. Like we respond to challenges better. Yeah. I mean, and so I try my best to take on this perspective of how can I bring the attitude of what the season is about to wherever I'm going to be. So if it's Thanksgiving, I'm going in with a heart of gratitude, man. Look, I've got family that's not here anymore that used to be around, and I don't get to see them this year, but I do get to see some. And so I'm going to go in with a heart of gratitude, and I'm going to go in with a low expectation. Christmas, like, man, for goodness sakes, it's about the presents, and it's about the turkey, and it's about the olives, which is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So good. I mean, I love olives. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I've never associated them with Christmas. Although I do have a funny story about Coca-Cola at Christmas, which we'll come back to in a minute, maybe.
Okay.
And now I probably don't even remember what I was going to say. I do. Christmas, like, it's about, goodness gracious, like I said, the Son of God coming to earth. Mm-hmm. Ultimately to be a sacrifice for all of mankind.
The ultimate act of humility too.
Yeah. And so to go in with a high level of expectation for self-service, for my needs to be met, seems like that's backwards. And so if I can go in with that attitude and, hey, how do I usher in, how do I model in, how do I bring the spirit of whatever it is that we're celebrating into it and allow that to be my expectation? I mean, heck, if you're going into Christmas saying, hey, how do I model the heart of Christ into whatever situation or family dynamic I'm going into. Gosh, I kind of say this tongue in cheek, but I don't want to make light of it. But like, you're probably not going to literally be crucified and die. So like, man,
I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be all right. And if you get to model that for other people and make someone else's day a bit more joyful, then man, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win.
I wrote something about that, like, it's not about you. I had wrote that one line, and I was thinking,
About
like, that's
Coca-Cola?
a good note. No, not about Coca-Cola.
Okay. All right.
But, I mean, there's one other practical thing. You may need to make the call to just decline an invitation, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to be, if you do not think it's a good call. Now, you and I would argue that, like, I would think, based on what you were saying, too, it's like, if you're getting to be the hope of Jesus and offer something to people and just, like, remind people, because some people, the holidays gets them fired up whether they follow Christ or not. And
Right.
it's like, I'm excited that people can still find hope in something that's like, I want them to find hope in Jesus, but I'm happy to see happy people.
Right.
So if you can serve and be like a light, that's awesome. But I also think it's important, like, you don't have to say yes to every invitation.
Yeah.
So that's a different thing. But I thought that little slip that in, like, give someone the opportunity to, like, not feel like they have to go everywhere they're invited
Yeah.
to.
So Coca-Cola.
Yes.
So let me see if I can get this right. Coca-Cola was a beverage that was.
It still is.
It still is.
Sorry.
have stock in the company.
They don't have it anymore? It's gone?
Yeah. That was largely a summertime beverage. It was like originally marketed as this is a refreshing drink.
I think I may know where you're going with this, and I'm curious to hear it.
Well, no, in a bunch of, I mean, look, at Christmas time, now it's like, oh yeah, have a Coca-Cola. What is it, the polar bears?
The polar bears.
Right?
Yeah, that's
And
what I was
everything.
thinking of.
So like some marketing people got together from Coca-Cola. It was like, man, we're down in the winter months.
Interesting.
And then just decided, hey, we're going to start this marketing campaign, put some polar bears with Santa
On the
Claus.
Coke, yeah.
Who the truth is, if Santa Claus was near polar bears, they would maul him.
Yes.
But somehow they're together now. And
They're the most vicious
And
bears.
they're rolling down the hills looking cuddly and cute, which, again, polar bears might look cute, but you don't want to get close to them. And drinking Coca-Cola. And now all of a sudden, like, their sales are like just as high now as, but like, I don't know. There's no real magical reason why Coca-Cola is like in Christmas commercials and a part of Christmas time, other than a great marketing campaign.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, that makes me think of that Hershey Kiss commercial that plays every year when they're like doing the bells of like, we wish you a Merry Christmas or whatever.
I don't know that one.
It's been on for like decades.
Nah,
You'll see it like 20 times this year now.
All right. Okay, so one thing I know for me that's, I mentioned this earlier, every year I feel like I say I'm not going to miss Christmas. And then it's like the 22nd. I'm like, okay, this thing is in 3 days. And then in my world, it's like, and now
That's when services
I have
start.
25 Christmas Eve services. I think it's worth all of us, myself included, like just thinking through how do we get more intentional about not missing it? Because whether it is a Hallmark thing or it is because, you know, the Bible clearly elevates the birth of Christ and that's when we celebrate Jesus, I think we'd be hard pressed to miss like really some magical times for people in this world, whether it's kids, adults even, happen around this season. So any ideas, man, on like how we can be more intentional? And maybe just me asking the question for our listeners is just, hey, are we taking the time to figure out how to be intentional in this season and not miss it? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know I'm asking you the question, but I'm just going to jump right because I really have.
No.
Like for me personally, like my kids love decorating the house. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple of years where I turn around and it's like December 7th. And you're like, man, you don't even have a whole month to enjoy it. And so this year for me, I am declaring that Thanksgiving Day will also be spent putting up Christmas decorations.
There you go.
Putting lights on the house.
There you go.
Getting the whole thing started at the absolute latest. And then normally the day after Thanksgiving, one thing we do that's always helped, we just have a tradition the day after Thanksgiving or sometime before that weekend's over. That's when we go get a Christmas tree.
There you go.
But any ideas for you guys how you're going to make sure you're being
I feel like I always think of that same thing too. Like I feel like I'm like, man, because I'm also in ministry and also with my business. It comes down to like the end of the year, you're trying to wrap things up and really push the last few things. And so I'm like so focused on that. Like I'm more focused on product and trying to like wrap up a good year. And I found like taking a year off from not playing for Christmas like feels good on paper, but like for me, it's like I've been a part of a Christmas Eve service since I could walk. I feel like in some form or fashion, whether it was like I was attending and started volunteering in some facet as a kid. I don't know. I think one thing I always say I'm going to do is like some sort of like Advent book or like devotional thing.
Yep.
that kind of just, because the whole idea there is like waiting for Christ and like they're waiting on his arrival. And I think some people who maybe just don't really feel like they want anything to do with Christ may find that like that's still beneficial for them to understand, like, why is it necessary that he came? What did he come for? Who did he come for? Yeah. And like, I think maybe I'm hoping by the time we post this episode, we could have a resource up and we can point you to something. But just like, even if it's like you open one of the greatest things that exists, I think, is the YouVersion app. Yeah. That's like Life Church put a lot of effort into that, and it's a free resource with lots of cool stuff. And that's one big thing, but also we have our app, the Hope in Real Life app, and we're trying to keep adding content to that.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, why are you talking about somebody else's app, man? We got stuff that we're gonna have.
I'm just trying to credit where credit is due.
Yeah, no, they
paved the way for that kind of thing.
Yeah, get Bradford off the show immediately. We gotta get somebody.
He's talking about other people.
If I wanted Craig Rochelle, I'd have one other thing I would say in terms of serving, we hit on this earlier and then we kind of moved on, and I'll wrap up with this, and then in a minute we're actually going to jump into Christmas, just around the idea of gifts and how do we manage, just a lot of pressure and tension. And so we'll hit that on the next episode. But I will say, as we head into the holidays, man, just looking for, you said it, I mean, giving somebody another parking spot, that's one, but like looking for ways to serve other people. Mm-hmm. That keeps our minds off ourselves and puts our minds towards other people. And that could be as simple, and Haley said this but a moment ago before we even started the show, whether that's serving in a soup kitchen somewhere, man, there are people hurting. I think I read a stat in Wake County alone that it's like 1 in 8 kids like go home and don't know if they're going to have food that day.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
So like whether it's serving in food or something as simple as like if you are a part of a local church, like if you are a part of a local expression of the body of Christ, one of the greatest opportunities that you will ever have to ensure that someone hears the hope that we actually have in Jesus is through celebrating a Christmas Eve service, because people are more willing and more apt for whatever reason to go, especially if invited at Christmas Eve. And so when your church says, hey, we're doing these Christmas Eve services and we've got opportunities for people to go and serve, man, goodness gracious,
go.
Don't do the bare minimum. Yeah. Look in, find how many opportunities can I find to share hope, because like, look, you can give someone a meal. That's important. But nothing is going to change somebody's life than coming into an encounter with the gospel and understanding that, no, the Son of God did leave heaven and did come to earth. And you have an opportunity to be a conduit. You have an opportunity to be a resource to actually bring that to life for other people. Yeah. So, man, we covered a lot.
We did.
Family, stay away from the election conversations. Yep. Love people. Put a plan in place early. It's okay to say no. Mm-hmm. Be a hopeless romantic and don't fall into the trap of the marketing of Coca-Cola at Christmas time.
Eat olives.
And eat olives.
Marinated olives.
That's a big episode.
There we go.
Hey, let's sign off for this week, for this episode. Heck, you can listen to all of them in 1 week if you want to. Sure. Let's sign off for this episode, and we will jump in on our next time together, talking a bit more about the Christmas season. Bradford, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you.
Yes, sir. Hope in Real Life. Share this with somebody, like, subscribe. Grateful for you. If there's anything that we can do to bring a bit more hope into your everyday life, please don't hesitate. Drop us a comment, let us know, and we would love to do all we can. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hope in Real Life podcast. If this content was valuable for you, don't forget, like, subscribe, share. You never know how important it could be to bring a little hope into someone else's life. There's even a place here for you to comment. We would love to hear from you and hear your feedback. Until next time, let's keep sharing hope.